Thank you so much for being here today, Frank, and thank you for your contribution to the case study on crisis. You and I seem to have worked through so many different crises together. I think when people see us, they think that's all we do is crisis, but we have regular...
Well, they're wrong. We do a lot of other things, some very interesting, some not so interesting, but all of them ours.
I think the first thing that we started working on together was the bombing of the American embassy. And I think you were probably the first person that I ever spoke to after it happened, because I realized the emotional impact it would have, not just on the people affected, but on the country as a whole. What are your recollections from that time?
My recollections about the bomb blast actually are two. The first recollection I have is of the wave from the bomb moving the curtain inside Nairobi Hospital, where I was at that particular moment examining a patient.
Wow.
So maybe 4 or 5 kilometers away, the power of the blast moved the curtain, and I knew something had happened. The second thing, which is I nearly fell sliding on the floor of Nairobi Hospital, not because somebody had left wetness or soap on the floor, but because of the blood.
Wow.
I mean, slipping on blood on that day has not left me more than a quarter of a century. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I could have fallen, and you know, it's just the blood, human blood.
Wow.
That's big. Nobody ever prepared me for that.
And what do you recall in the first 24 hours in terms of government response?
Oh, very loud silence.
Yeah.
Extremely loud silence. It's a horrifying silence. I mean, a number of things happened in the few minutes after the bomb blast. The first is I went to the casualty department of the Nairobi Hospital, and everybody, including the administration, was trying to stitch patients, and I said, no, this cannot be. We are not all skilled in stitching patients. Somebody has to do the admin part of this particular thing. So I stopped everything. I left casualty. I went to the empty office of the chief administrator of the hospital. Mm-hmm. And the first call I got was from CNN, who wanted to know, had this happened, how were we responding? And whatever I said, and they said, thank you. I asked them to bring us water and biscuits, if they could. And then I took off to the site, because I needed to have a mental picture of what I didn't, I mean, I had no feel of it. I went and I saw it, and I knew this is
huge.
One thing we'd never prepared for.
No.
So later that day, in a measure of desperation, because nobody was doing anything to the public, I decided I would do it. And I went to it was called Capital FM.
Yes.
Yes? Yeah. And I found a young lady there, I think Caroline Mutoko was her name, and I said, we must do a show. And we must allow Kenyans
to vent.
To vent.
Yeah.
3.5 hours later, the temperatures came down.
I think the enormity of what had happened was starting to
It was beginning. I don't think our viewers now know what a phone-in program is.
No.
No. But a quarter of a century ago, a phone-in worked.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It was a time of that time.
All it did was to allow people to say how angry they were, how upset they were, how out of control they felt, how lost they felt.
But I want to take you back again to government response. When do you think government actually got involved in sort of...
The following day.
Okay.
I think the following day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's more than 24 hours later, is when President Moi Kibaki, Raila Odinga, Charity Ngilu
went to the site.
Arrived on the site, actually in one combi.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, you were there. I was not there because I was busy.
Yes. Yeah, of course
I was busy. I was busy putting together a crisis response team. But when they arrived, and I think this is the point of this conversation in a way, people calmed down.
Well, it's just being seen, right? Presence. There's somebody in charge.
They did not have to say a word.
Yeah.
The people of Kenya government and opposition were together, united in defense of our country.
Yeah.
That's a message that I took home.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. I think that sometimes what government doesn't realize is that sometimes they just speak for the sake of speaking, when actually if they're just seen and are present, that automatically starts giving people a sense of there's people in charge of their...
You must forgive me for saying this. Christians have a very good word for it. They call it the ministry of presence.
Oh, okay.
Meaning that you don't have to say anything. Once the people have seen the daddy is there, that there is a big man or woman who says, leave this one to me. I've seen this kind of thing before. I will deal with it.
So do you think in moments like this, that people look for information first or reassurance?
Reassurance.
Okay.
Information are words. I think people need to know and to feel that there is somebody whose day job is to protect us. Yes, it's not something they do on an ad hoc basis. We are government. I am the president. This is my job. I will look. It's a bit like in the home. When mommy arrives, all the children who are all over the place crying and whatever, when mommy arrives, they know.
There's stability.
There's stability.
Exactly.
That mommy doesn't have to say anything. Just coming in is enough.
It's really interesting, actually, and I've brought it up in the book. In Switzerland, there's a whole department of presence. There's a whole permanent secretary whose only job is to build trust and to protect the trust of Switzerland. And I haven't seen that we have, who's in charge of trust or presence?
Nobody. And if he or she is there, they're hiding.
Yeah.
And the reason they're hiding, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think we must forgive them also, because I don't think they fully appreciate the significance and importance of presence.
And trust.
And trust.
Because trust is a huge currency now, right?
Trust is everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Trust is everything.
Yeah. And so if you look then at sort of the Kenya Airways crash, and I know for sure you were the first person I called at 4 o'clock in the morning. And again, we all arrived at Kenya Airways at sort of 6 o'clock in the morning. But I think the one thing that we did do really well was to be able to speak to families of the passengers that were on the plane and staff members at Kenya Airways. And I think you also worked on that.
That was inspired.
Yeah.
It was inspired. It's recognizing that behind the metal that had crashed were human beings who had loved ones and who in a sense were and are our primary responsibility. I think the inspiration around just focusing on the human beings is what made the disaster less painful.
The empathy around it, right?
Clear, concise, well-communicated empathy. I remember, I don't know if you remember, the first press conference. I think it was Panari, whatever it was.
Yes, it was Panari.
You didn't know what was going on.
No, I didn't.
Naikuni didn't know what was going on. But the fact that you are prepared to face up to the cameras, let me say this because it's also true. Even showing the human side of a managing director that I don't know, but we will find out.
Exactly.
Is reassuring.
And he was really devastated, and trying to get him. I remember that being my job to say you have to speak to the public.
Yes.
And he said, but I don't have anything to say. And I'm like, it's okay.
Even to just say I have nothing to say.
Yeah. Just say we still don't know what's happened.
We still don't know.
Yeah.
I think 9 o'clock. Yes.
Yes, it was about 9.
It was the biggest because we didn't. Nobody knew. The families didn't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's go to 2007, 2008, which is, I think, an area that both of us worked on closely. The country was completely fractured. Trust was shattered. Where do you think the trust broke? Was it with institutions? Was it with government? Or was it between ourselves as Kenyan people?
I think trust was broken by the architecture of society at that time.
Okay.
If you remember, everything we as a people were doing was 100% adversarial.
Yeah.
And Kenya as a people, as a country, as a nation, wasn't anywhere in the equation. So we had people, two groups of antagonistic people. It's the same old story when two elephants fight.
Yeah.
It's the grass. We were the grass.
Yes.
And there were these two huge bull elephants fighting each other. We couldn't trust either. And actually, when with the benefit of hindsight, what we got in 2007-08 was predictable.
Yeah,
it was going to come. We didn't prepare for it. We didn't think about it. It was coming. It was inevitable.
And I mean, what do you think sort of stronger communications from government could have prevented the sort of the feeling in the country at that time?
If there had been anybody in government with the presence of mind, the answer is a very definite yes. But I think, again, we try and forgive them in the sense that all their stakes were in this one event. And that's a very, very dangerous thing to have, where the future of 50 million people is dependent on one person standing up and saying, so and so has won this. And these things are close.
Of course, they're very close. I mean, yeah, just a few hundred votes sometimes.
Absolutely. So I think if there's a lesson we need to learn moving forward, is that even today the present government needs to find a way. Like you've said, there's a Ministry of Presence. We need to have a ministry of telling us what possibilities exist following the ballot.
So yeah, beyond the ballot. But you know, you look at elections, and I think this is what's so interesting. Votes are counted in a day, but trust is built daily.
And trust can be lost in a day.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The trust, I mean, even 007, 008, was it Kibaki who was sworn in the middle of, not quite in the middle of the night, at 7:15 at night?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That act, and I'm not saying he had won or he had lost, the act of swearing in the dark, that's what I remember, is the end of trust.
But it also affected his reputation as a person, because we'd always seen him as this very responsible, very clever man, which he was. But I think him accepting to be sworn in at that time also really affected his own reputation.
The word that came to my mind, continues to come to my mind whenever I think of that particular moment, is panic.
Yeah.
And I think if a nation is to move in an orderly fashion, it must never allow itself to panic. I think President Kibaki was persuaded by those around him.
I think gatekeepers are always the
if you don't do it now, Mzee, we're finished.
Yeah, exactly.
This country will come to an end. And the Mzee said, Bas, twende na hiyo mnasema, twende na hiyo mnasema. I think we panicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we set ourselves up for panic. And if you're going to plan beyond the ballot, we must also anticipate a situation where we come near panic, but don't panic.
Yeah, and I think that's where, who you surround yourself with when you're in leadership is so important.
The expression, some people say the lazy expression that how many adults are in this room is so true. Surround yourself with juveniles, you get juvenile ideas.
But also surrounding yourself only with politicians can be quite dangerous, right? Because I think political language in itself can be quite harmful to trust and reputation.
Politicians will not like me for what I'm about to say. I'm a doctor and I know how I treat my patients. I do this and I do this. I've been trained to do that job. A politician's mindset in Kenya today is on 5-year cycles. You try and get a politician to think a generation, 30 years time, he will say, when I want Njenga, when I wazimu. Because that's not the way we have trained our politicians.
But I don't think it's just in Kenya, though. If you look at the world globally, right, it's in a very fragile state. But I think if you look at every country, trust is thinning wherever you look. And that's because of these short-term cycles that politicians think in.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that have happened to me as I've grown older is to appreciate that doing politics on 4, 5 or 7-year cycles is an act of insanity. It cannot be. We must find a system that allows us to think 20, 30, 40 years ahead.
Exactly.
And work around that. That's how life goes.
But that which brings me to the 2010 new constitution, because I think that was such a big moment for the country, because we moved from a personality cult setup that we have to much more about institutions. What do you think is the most important about strong institutions? Why is it so critical?
If you go back to 1978 when President Moi became president, and if you look at the first 10 years of his rule, including the attempted coup, his response, by way of a knee-jerk, was to pull down institutions and centralize power and authority unto himself. He did that because he could do that. We, when we gave ourselves the 2010 constitution, decided that will never happen again. Never again with one person be mama na baba.
Yeah.
And that is the secret we have found for ourselves. And that is why we have separated. They are not all functioning perfectly.
Yeah, it's not a perfect constitution either. No.
But it's better than what we had before that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's, if we look at the whole continent, right, there's a lot of personality-driven governments around.
Yes.
Yes.
But I could name a few, but we'll not.
We won't be doing that.
No.
So, Frank, when you look at the continent, what do you think we could do better in terms of disaster preparedness?
I think the first thing we must do is to hold a conversation such as, and I think your book, for those who may be watching who are literate, I commend the book to them very strongly, because what in essence this book is telling Africans in general is that preparing is important. And you cannot prepare for something you have not thought about. So part of the reason we keep getting caught out is because it hasn't happened. There is no bomb blast that has happened to us before, so we cannot prepare for it. It has not flooded seriously in Kenya before. I keep saying, it's a bit like the young men who come to us sometimes. He comes there and he tells you, my wife is stuck in the maternity with a baby. I need 70,000 to get her. Your wife has been pregnant 9 months.
Yeah, exactly.
This was coming.
Yeah, you knew it was going to happen.
This day was coming. I think once we allow ourselves to acknowledge that drought will come, flooding will come, aircraft will crash, political crisis, once we allow ourselves to do that, then, as others have done with the Ministry of Presence, we will put aside resources for the anticipation of all, on a spreadsheet. What are the possible disasters? Let me tell you one that is coming.
Tell me.
All the drains in Nairobi are blocked now.
Yeah.
Yes? And the rains are here. Next week, some clever man will say, oh, we are flooded in Mukuru. Of course, we are preparing for it. We are making sure that it happens.
I mean, we can anticipate.
We know exactly,
Yeah.
but because it's not an immediate today thing, it doesn't matter to us.
So it's really interesting if you look at, say, the UK government, they have something called a COBRA committee, which is an existing everyday task force for any time there's a crisis. Everybody knows what they're meant to do when the crisis happens. All they have to do is bring on the COBRA committee. Does Kenya have anything?
Actually, there is a department in the Office of the President called a Disaster Management something or other. I fear that is a name because it's a kind of, I don't know, I hope I'm wrong, but in the properly functioning COBRA type disaster management team in the Office of the President, we, the stakeholders, we the wananchi, would be part of the drills that would prepare us, because it affects us.
Us, yeah.
And if you don't know about it, I don't know about it, those people watching don't know about it, there is no way we can meaningfully participate in the response. So even if it's there, it's a secret organization known only to government and administration, and we the consumers of that service. So it probably is there, but I don't know about it.
Okay. And if we look at COVID, I think if you look at, and we can say a lot of things about government, but I think one area we did really well on was our COVID response. Why was that, and what do you think we can learn from how Kenya handled COVID and the success that we had compared to many other countries?
I will not shy away from saying that our mutual friend Mutahi Kagwe worked extremely well. And whether people give him credit as a person or not, I think one of the other things that your book points out, when government owns the crisis, when government applies the resources, then government is good. Government can do things. And I think, if my recollection is right, both President Kenyatta and Mutahi Kagwe, then the minister in charge, together convinced us several things. One, that we had a crisis. Two, that government was in charge. And they didn't do it by issuing press statements twice a week. Government was there every single day, giving us numbers, giving us credibility, showing us where they were doing things right, where things were not going right. That's what people want.
And also we trusted what they told us. I think that was the thing.
They built trust in themselves. The numbers they were giving us were comprehensible, were accurate, and this is the textbook. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Government must appear credible in its response to any crisis.
And I think we did really well during COVID. But Frank, just going back to some of the areas that I've picked up in the book, how important is it for countries to invest in their own branding, their own reputation?
It comes back to what we were saying before. Countries exist into perpetuity. If we treat countries as though they exist on 5-year cycles, then they have no persona.
No.
You cannot say Kenya is like this, Kenyans are like this. In Kenya, this is what happened. It's what happened in Moi's government, Kibaki's government, Ruto. You can't manage.
And reputation is everything. How it affects tourism, the markets, everything.
I mean, if the trading environment, if the foreign exchange environment, if the entire ecosystem of investments changes each time you have a new finance minister, that's a prescription for disaster. There is no Kenyan way of doing things that is recognizable from out there. And I think if we can find a way of deliberately branding the Kenyan institution, the Kenyan way of doing business, that is the brand of this country that will give us sustainability.
What would you say are the three things that Kenya should be known by? What are the three areas?
I think the first thing Kenya should be known for is that this is a country where we have stability and predictability. Number two, people, I think, should know us as a place where human beings are safe and human beings are respected. And thirdly, Kenya should be known as a place where the democratic ethos is part of daily life. So whether you're electing people for the cattle dip, or whether it's a society for maize or society for goats, whatever it is, we do things democratically.
Properly.
Yes.
And let's go quickly to the area of youth. And I know you work with a lot of young people. Young people right across the continent are struggling with hope. And that's going to be a huge problem for the continent, because if you look at the numbers, the demographic divide that we have, what should African governments do to inspire more hope in young people?
Stop talking and just do things. I think when I see even our government speak very clearly about this is what we will do for you, this is what government can do for you, this is where we shall be in the year, those are words. I don't believe them. The young people don't believe it.
So there's a trust deficit.
It's 100% trust deficit. You show us in words that ministers are accountable, that civil servants are accountable, that there is no wastage, there is no plunder. Let us see that, and let us accept that the process of developing trust will take not weeks, but months, and will grow out of the behavior of those people we call leaders.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw with the Gen Z protests.
Gen Zs are telling us, and on this one, anybody who didn't see what happened to the Gen Z, they're telling us they're fed up. They're saying, Mom, Dad, you're liars. You tell us to stop drinking, and you're drinking heavily. You tell us not to take drugs, you're the drug dealers. You tell us to drive carefully, you're the worst drivers. You tell us not to steal, you're thieves.
And I mean, it's not just in Kenya. We saw just a few months ago what happened in Tanzania.
Yes, it happened in Tanzania, happened in Madagascar.
Exactly.
And in the traditional Bantu tribe, there's something called Itweka. Itweka is a transition from one generation into the next generation. Anybody who forgets June 2024 is in trouble in this country, I can tell you, because that event has now taken place, and none of us is safe until we look after the interest, long-term interest of the younger generation.
It's quite frightening to think of the youth bulge right across the continent, and the lack of jobs, and that's why the young people want to leave. I mean, the number of people that want to leave the continent, it's staggering when you look at the data.
Let's come back to our original conversation about trust and our preparedness for disaster. We have known all along about the youth bulge. We've always known it's there. Everybody is told about it. What are we doing to prepare for it? We stand in political arenas and say, oh, we have youth bulge, we have youth bulge. In actual, practical sense, what are we doing? What have we done? If much is being done, I'm unaware. Allow me, Gina, to congratulate you.
Oh, thank you.
Because, first of all, I mean, not just your autobiography, that's done and dusted. This is a brilliant book.
Thank you.
And it's a brilliant book for me because it puts pen to paper on a subject that you are an expert. Yes? This is your life. You've lived this. And this is not stuff you learned in Harvard or no.
It's a lived experience.
This is lived experience. And I would like to say to anybody who has any form of lived experience in commerce, industry, agriculture, whatever it is, to do what you've done. Because knowledge and experience are a bit like gossip.
Yeah.
If you don't pass on gossip, the gossip dies.
Yes. Yeah.
If you don't pass on knowledge and experience as you have now, it will die with you. And that for me is a crime. I think those of us who have had the privilege of being at center stage in our profession must put pen to paper as you have done.
I think I've been very fortunate to sort of be in the intersection of, private sector, government, and leadership. And I've also been very fortunate to have had many leaders right across the continent allowing me in the rooms. And I've been where there's been great success, but I've also been in spaces where if they had articulated positions better, the kind of disasters we saw would not have happened.
So writing this book is a sign of leadership in itself.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Frank.
This is leadership.
I appreciate it. Thank you.